We're going to call the meeting to order at 6:38. Please stand and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic that stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. All right, let's do roll call.
Sharon Spears present.
Josh Hawkins present. Jason Lee Woods present.
Carol Lee present. Laura Easton present.
All right. First order is to approve minutes from the prior meeting in May 7th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the May 7th, 2026 meeting.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. All right, new business. We need to amendment to the PC rules and procedures. You want to talk about it, Deborah?
Sure. Was everybody here for the initial discussion? Okay, and I'll just kind of, for the record, give a brief overview. We're looking at two amendments to the Plan Commission Rules and Procedures. The first is a change that occurred at the state level that says Plan Commission members now serve at the appointing authority's pleasure. So for any reason, the appointing authority may remove a member if they see fit. The caveat is that it has to be the exact same board or person that appointed you that can remove you. So if you were a town council appointment and the town council membership has changed since you were appointed, the new town council cannot remove you. If, for example, you were in a city and you had a mayor that was appointing you, if the mayor changed, the new mayor could not remove you. So you could only be removed by the exact group or person that appointed you initially. There was still a reason for removing you that's built into our rules and procedures. The main one being if you just don't show up for meetings and you go MIA, you are not serving your responsibility to the commission. So that would still apply even if your appointing authority changed. The other rule that we're looking at changing is the notification requirement radius to surrounding property owners. Right now it's 600 feet and at least 2 properties deep. I had proposed 200 feet, but the BZA, in looking at their rules, had upped that to 300 feet, thinking that would capture the appropriate amount of surrounding neighbors to be notified. This would just be simply a 300-foot radius, no additional properties deep. It will make it easier for the Boone County Auditor's Office to generate that notification list for us and hopefully streamline things and minimize costs to our applicants.
Okay. Any discussion?
We heard the discussion from BZA and a few other. And I think going along with them would probably be
That's what
a good idea.
where I'm at with it. All right, so to make it as clean as possible, break it down to 2. So do I have a motion to approve the amended Article 2, page 2, regarding the removal of PC numbers in accordance with HEA 1161?
I'll make a motion to amend Article 2, page 2 regarding the removal of PC members in accordance with HEA 1161.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Do we have a motion for the? Gotcha.
I'll make a motion to amend Article 10, page 14 to reduce the public notice radius from 600 feet and 2 properties deemed to simply 300 feet.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All right. So let's talk about the other one.
Oh, yes. So as you probably heard on the news and everywhere else, the United States is under a housing crisis, meaning we don't have enough supply of homes. We also don't have enough variety, and attainability in our housing stock to achieve. So, and again, this is a national thing. The president has put down special orders regarding this as well. And when it came down to the state level, they wanted us to start looking at ways to make housing easier to build, make it as affordable as possible, and lift any barriers that are preventing that from happening. So House Bill 1001 came into being back in January. It changed forms quite a bit. We have a lot of language that was struck from that, which was going to be very difficult to administer. But what was left in that bill was essentially a mandate that every community do an audit of their Unified Development Ordinance. And they gave us 9 points to kind of answer with regard to how our ordinance is affecting these. So I'll just kind of go over where we fall and some suggestions on where maybe we can make some improvements. The House Enrolled Act does say all we have to do is the audit and field the questions. We are not required to do amendments. But I think the General Assembly next session is probably going to hand us some amendments that parallel these. So we might as well start thinking about them and possibly moving forward in the future. So the first point is your ordinance providing for higher density development of duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes in areas designated for single family homes? So our current UDO has 4 different districts where we allow single family homes. We have the residential low density, which is low density single family residential. We have R2, which is medium density. We have MF, which is high density residential, and then we have our downtown mixed use district that allows residential as well. In our R1 district, it only allows single family homes by right. It does not talk about any of those other types of housing. In R2, it allows single family and 2 family by right. No other types of housing is contemplated. But our multifamily district allows the widest variety, which is 2 family and multifamily by right and single family by special exception. Within each of these districts, though, there are minimum lot size and minimum home size to abide by. Our downtown residential district is pretty flexible. It allows single family and 2 family dwellings by right, multifamily dwellings by special exception, and the lot sizes and home sizes are a lot smaller. So my argument would be is that we're partially meeting this requirement and that we have different densities and we do allow a little bit of variety. But my suggestion would be that we consider reducing the minimum residential lot size if it is indeed served by sewer and water, and do that in all districts. Maybe we look at each district and look at what is the average size lot in that district and maybe use that as our minimum as kind of a going forward point. Would also recommend that we simplify reducing the minimum living area for these homes. I think the current ordinance says ground floor area for single story and then ground floor area if you're more than 2-story. We could simplify that and just say living area, period, whether it's 2-story, 3-story, 1-story. We don't care as long as you have that minimum living area. And then lastly, expand the types of residential structures that are permitted in each district and start talking about triplexes, fourplexes, maybe 5 to 8 unit buildings, 9+ unit buildings to possibly either go into infill lots where appropriate, or, you know, if there's a home that's falling down and is being replaced, give some more options for replacing those. The second point is, does your ordinance permit constructing other housing types, including accessory dwelling units and manufactured or modular housing? So this is partially satisfied. Accessory dwelling units are only permitted and by special exception in the Ag District and R1 District. So those are going to be a little larger lots, but it does require an extra hoop to go through by meeting with the BZA. to that point, I would recommend consider allowing accessory dwellings on any lot that has a single family. Provided they still meet all the setbacks, the lot coverage requirements, we still have driveway access, it's built to building code and all of that. The next point is manufactured homes are permitted everywhere. Single family homes are permitted in our district, in all of our districts, provided you meet the minimum development standards there. We do have manufactured home park standards, but currently a manufactured home park is not permitted inside the town limits. So my recommendation would be either we consider allowing them in maybe a multifamily district, or maybe we create a new zoning district that allows multifamily housing that somebody could rezone the property to if it was going to be either inside town limits or maybe it was outside town limits and wanted to be annexed. I think at next year's General Assembly, there's going to be talks about making manufactured housing a lot easier to develop.
I do have a question.
Yes,
So you said right now, the multifamily, or not multifamily, the mobile home park basically is not allowed in town limits. We do have a property that was zoned for that. Are we not aware of that?
yes, but I'm saying a new one would be able to
Okay.
go in
Okay.
at this point.
So let me ask you this, what if, this is a, what if we don't want to tripleplex, fourplex, mobile park, any of this, I mean, choose your one that we don't want in here. You're saying that eventually we're not gonna have a choice because the state's gonna come down and say, we gotta provide it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have no control over what we can or can't have in our town.
We do right now, but the state may trump us.
So if we offer it up and somebody comes in here, there's no sense. For instance, if we make the changes, let's use the trailer park as an example. If we make the changes to where somebody can come in and have a piece of property, multifamily trailer, or, trailers on it, whatever they want to call it. And we as a town don't want them. The people that do want them on that property probably got a better fight to get what they want than we do to defend what we don't want.
Well, we do have development standards for a manufactured home park. So like we require sidewalks, paved roadways, certain lot size for each home site. We've tried to plan ahead in the event that did happen.
So in other words, that tells me the best is if that's something we don't want, we're making it harder for them to get over here.
That is an approach.
Okay, understood.
That's where I was looking.
Okay, and smart to talk it through. It's where the legal part comes in on explaining what the requirements would be to be.
Right. What would make it palatable?
Questions
to
about
you?
okay.
Can you require them to be on a permanent foundation, or do they still have to be mobile?
As of right now, I believe you can require them to be on a permanent foundation, but that could change.
Right, but I'm wondering if we put it in
Well-
and require that.
One thing that Shane and I and Lori learned when it comes to the mobile homes, those got special releases from the state to be built in. Because it-
manufacturer.
Right, because it is not a home. Now, the ones like where you used to work at, yes.
Yeah, no, I know, but that's why I'm asking,
Yeah.
because the mobile homes, you can still put them on a permanent foundation,
Correct, you can, but the state,
but their building codes are different on them.
correct, because they actually have to get approved from the state. Now, when that gets done, does not mean that the state doesn't say, oh, you can just use the tornado strapping and be done. So that's where it becomes great.
Yes,
So-
exactly.
But I was just thinking if we had higher standards in place, at least that stuff would be grandfathered in, even if the state comes through and changes.
Yeah.
So,
I'm perfectly fine with that.
well, I know, I'm just putting some options out.
Unless the state said, regardless of what your ordinance says, this is what you will allow. So
But you don't have room.
then whoever wants to put one in will need to have something annexed or do it under the county's purview.
If it's close enough to the town to connection for water, and sewer, the town is gonna make them connect on the town and we'd be.
You'd make a annex anyway.
I'd make them annex anyways, because at that point, it's like Ross Road. Ross Road's not annexed in the town, they get all the privileges of the town, that includes our.
Yes.
But we don't get nothing.
But we don't get nothing from it.
Right, because that goes to the county.
Right.
County.
Right.
Okay, something that I want to say about this second, the accessory dwelling by right on all lots. So I'm kind of concerned about that as far as the utilities go, because if people are just allowed to put up small houses on their lots, where how are they gonna get their utilities?
They'll still have to apply for permits and secure their utility connections and meet all the standards. And that might not always be possible on every lot.
Again, we're giving them access, but we can make it as difficult, or they can make it as difficult. It's not necessarily we have to make it difficult, but.
Yeah, I just
it's
want to make
impossible.
sure you put rules in there.
When I say permitted by right, it just means they don't have to come for a public hearing to make it happen. They still have to meet all these
So-
other standards.
Marty, by our ordinance as it stands right now, if somebody decided to put a meeting house or whatever on their property, they can only have one water main. So that means they have to tap into the existing house for water and sewer,
Right.
but they can have a separate electric meter.
And we had that.
So,
That's gonna cause issues.
how's it gonna cause an issue?
We build a tiny home on the back of our property. You, the town planning commission, require me to.
No, it's not planning commission. You as the town council pass that
Well,
over.
whoever it may be, the town planning commission, whoever it may be, you're requiring me to hook water up to that.
Yes, you have.
Well, we sell the house and Jason moves in and he's like, this house has got 4 lots. We'll just Lock that off and sell that one.
Well,
And then it has water to it that I didn't pay a tap for,
no.
and you don't have sewer to it.
Well, it's on the existing house. So therefore, if you sell off the lot, then you cut that house, you cut the water and sewer off. They have to apply for.
Ultimately, you're almost in the same situation you're with the old Mice Hobson property across the street from Ten and Pennington. You're teeter-tottering on that.
We have restrictions currently in the ordinance that says you have to have a deed restriction saying you can't separate it from the lot. So
I
it's
think that we should make them have to do a sewer and water
We
connection.
can't. Our ordinance, our town ordinance does not allow it. So we, as a planning commission, can't do it. The town council has to change the town ordinance, not the UDO. Because our ordinance states that you can only have 1 meter per addressed lot.
When I first moved to town, we lived in a trailer behind Fred's mom's house, and we had to share the water with them, and we had to pay half the bill.
So,
But we only had 1 meter.
If Jason wanted to build a garage, because he has a very large lot, and he wanted to put a bathroom in his garage, that makes perfect sense. But if you're gonna move in-laws into it,
I understand where you're coming from, Shane, but unfortunately, this is not a UDO issue. This is a town ordinance issue.
Well, but it turns out just like a lot of landlords do, they have to pay the water and sewer because those things go to that property. So,
Add 2
No.
meters on your 2 water lines or whatever on your lot that you had to have a separate tap.
No. Read the ordinance. It says 1 meter per addressed lot. So some of these people that had 2 water meters had 2 different addressed lots. We went through and double checked and found all the old addresses.
For instance, when we bought our house, it had 2 addresses because it was a split.
It was a split.
So I could have had
Yes,
2 meters,
correct.
but I changed it.
My brother's does because it was 2 apartments.
Okay.
It has 2.
Okay.
because it has two addresses for that lot.
We'll worry about that later. I just worry about.
Right, no, that,
Because people can put up sheds on their property and.
Still has to meet building code for a single family dwelling, and it's not a free for all, trust me.
Right. but no, I'm just saying is.
This is what I'm picturing is what you have free for all, yeah, okay.
But again, no matter what we do with this UDO, if we allow them, the town ordinance does not allow it. Because the town ordinance says you can only have 1 meter per address lot.
Okay.
So if you don't subdivide it first and have it addressed for it, you can't get in the extra meters.
Hmm.
Could it feasibly be on 1 meter and?
Yeah, no, you can.
Okay, so it's doable.
And yes, it's doable because as far as the utilities are concerned, what happens after the customer side, what's their responsibility is they can do it. So.
Any other discussion on that one?
I have a question.
Did you say at the beginning that they're running out of supplies as well?
Yes.
Supply of houses. Not supplies to building, supplies of houses.
Okay, well, because I was like, well, why? This, we don't. Okay. Supplier houses, all right, I think I'm done.
I knew where you were going with that.
We had a supply problem during COVID when the
Well,
supply chains were cut off. That's something we don't always.
when they're all gone.
Yes, it's not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Hey. Are you gonna give us recommendations of what, cause you work for different towns, and you know, like towns our size, what they're reducing their sizes to and what you think the legislature is going to require us? I mean, I know it's guesswork, but.
Right. Several of my communities have dropped the minimum living area as small as possible for each zoning district. So like trying to think, one of my communities, Fairland, Indiana, out by the Shelbyville Casino. A couple of years ago when they did their ordinance, they dropped it down to 900 square feet for below density, single family homes. They go as small as, I believe, 400 square feet for apartments. They're even thinking going smaller to allow for like studio apartments as well. Lot sizes, in town on, in the denser areas of town, minimum lot size is, I believe, 4,500 square feet. And I'm guessing this, in the original, Bill 1001, it said 5,000 or 5,500 square feet should be the largest lot on sewer and water in an incorporated area. And that got struck right away, but I'm just telling you, that's what they're thinking. And of course, they're thinking of an urban incorporated area.
Which we're not.
Right, you're more of you're a rural community, obviously. It wouldn't apply to counties areas because they're not on sewer and water, but they're just trying to allow for density that out there's a lot of older ordinances that kept people out of their community by making lots and homes excessively large. And this has been recognized as a problem, so we're trying to do what we can to alleviate those barriers. So, and I would say, as of right now, your ordinances are pretty darn good by achieving that. There's still some communities that are going to fight and say, we want 3-acre lots inside town limits because that's what everybody wants. And that gets a little pricey. It makes infrastructure expensive, running your utilities out there, your roadways, police response time is affected by that as well. So they're trying to bring all those ordinances down to a more manageable and realistic level. I don't know how far they'll expect communities to bring it down, but I'd say you're already most of the way there. So not a lot to worry about there. The next point is, does your ordinance allow for adaptive reuse of commercial buildings for residential uses, such as allowing multifamily development in retail, office, and light manufacturing zones? I have a little bit of an issue with this, but our downtown mixed use district There's nothing in there that says you can't take a commercial building and convert it to residential as long as it meets the building code and whatnot. Our general commercial and industrial districts do residential. My logic is that you get to a point, those uses aren't compatible with residential uses. You don't want that mix in there. Also, the cost to convert some of those structures is cost prohibitive. And you don't want all your industrial ground to be consumed with residential development when you need that for your tax base. So, we may look at maybe in the general commercial area, consider maybe allowing some high density residential by special exception. So in certain conditions, and if everybody's on board, we might consider it, but I don't know that I would necessarily allow that outright. Number 4, does your ordinance increase the allowable floor area ratio in multifamily housing areas? That's just a fancy way of saying, do you allow smaller sizes for the multifamily development? I think we can do a little bit better with that and minimize those lot sizes for multifamily development, especially if we're going to maybe drop the minimum living area for those down. And it also kind of depends on how much open space does your community offer for its residents. If you have nearby park space, you don't need a giant lot for a multifamily dwelling. And I'm saying 3 family, 4 family, 5, 9, and up. So, of course, those are amenities we'd like those developments to have, but maybe we need to think if, the town should be supplying part of that or how much the builder should be. Item number 5, does your ordinance allow for eliminating regulations such as garage size and placement, steeper roofs, minimum lot size and square footages, greater setbacks, off-street parking, design standards that restrict or prohibit the use of code compliant products or property height limitations? We do not have architectural standards in Jamestown. We just pretty much say, here's your minimum living area and your setbacks and your height, and work with it, to that degree. We do not have requirements for garage placement. Some communities will say your front yard setback is 20 feet, but the garage has to be at least 30 feet back. And that's a way of kind of manipulating how that home is put on a lot. It makes the driveway longer. It makes the garage less prominent. Those add costs to housing, so they're wanting to get rid of those. Our UDO does not mention or restrict any code compliant residential products. So if there's an alternate way of constructing the home, engineering wise, as long as it meets the building code and the minimum dwelling area and lot size, we don't stop it. With regard to, we referenced in point number 1 that we do have multiple zoning districts permitting residential development with different densities, as long as they meet the lot size and living area. So we've met that. Our height measurements are measured to the highest point of the structure. Some communities make that height only measured to the eaves, which allows a little more flexibility on how big the structures are. So that's something we might consider. It's also a function of our fire department and how high they can service the water for fighting a fire. So something to look at. And lastly, on-street parking requirements. We require 2 spaces for each dwelling unit, regardless of type. Providing off-street parking, again, causes the lots to be a little bigger to accommodate the vehicles. When we say 2 spaces, it doesn't say 2 outdoor spaces or 2 indoor spaces. So maybe you have a single car garage that takes care of one, and one in the driveway could take care of another. But some communities have done away with those parking minimums altogether, especially if they have streets with enough parking space on the streets themselves. So it's kind of,
That would be our issue,
Yeah.
is not having the space on the streets.
some streets might have it, so,
Right.
like downtown. So maybe we look at the ordinance to say we can administratively grant the waiver to a requirement as long as there's on-street parking already in place or something like that. We can get creative with that. Like I said, some communities have done away with those parking minimums altogether. It mostly affects your commercial and industrial development because we don't have to plan for the day after Thanksgiving and making sure all those shoppers have a spot to park in front of the stores anymore. So that side can definitely come down. But with regard to residential, maybe we base it on the number of bedrooms or something to that effect. So if you have a studio apartment, maybe you only need space. Or maybe we say multifamily, only one space per unit. If the developer wants to accommodate more, they can, but at least we're allowing that one space. The next one, reviewing impact fee zones with zone advisory committee for improvements. Jamestown doesn't have impact fees, so that is not.
Question.
Yes.
Why not? First time I ever heard about an impact. It's just a curiosity question more than anything. The previous inspector came up to me when this development was going in, and he was trying to set up a park or an impact fee scenario thing. I forget exactly what he called it. Where every time I guess something was built or done, there's a fee on the permit or some scenario of that. So why don't we have? Is that a size of town thing? Is that we haven't thought about it, against it?
Well, first you have to do a study to establish your baseline to justify the fee you're going to charge. Having that study done by an outside consultant can be costly. That is going to play heavier with like road impact fees than it would with parks and such. But that's a function of the town to decide to adopt those impact fees, not the planning commission. So, but yes, it is a fee that is charged for each building permit and it's charged up front. Those fees are then given to the park board or to the street department, and they can only be used for certain things. What that point was asking is making sure that you are clearly collecting the funds and applying them where they're supposed to be applied instead of hoarding them and then doing something elsewhere in town.
Okay, it circles back to my first one. The reason why you're telling me why we don't have those is because in order to do the study to get those costs more than what we would get.
No, I'm just saying it's an investment
Initial
upfront.
investment.
Yes.
Do you feel there's a certain size of the community or a certain change or a certain moment within the change or community that something like that should be thought about in doing?
I will say if you're going to consider impact fees, do it before the demand for development comes in. You don't want to do it after. For example, Whitestown did adopt a lot of those impact fees as development. Well, I don't want to say wrapping up, but it was already full swing. So you're not capturing those monies for the development that's already come. So
You can only get from that point forward, which.
So this should be,
3/4 of the way done, then you're only getting.
yes,
so this should be a preemptive thing.
yes.
Vice versa.
And that's the reason why on the utility side, we put the developmental fees in there was for that same purpose.
Yep.
Because when we did that years ago, it was because Avon, Plainfield, Brownsburg, Pittsburgh were all experiencing growing pains to the point that they did not have the funds. And, utilities were starting to skyrocket at that. So that's the reason. So developmental fees was designed to make a new house coming in equitable to somebody that already lived at an older home. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Plus, what you're trying to reduce them anyways.
The impact fees.
Okay.
Yes. That's what I'm getting at.
So, all right, cool. Thank you. Learn something every week.
All right, another thing that kind of the broader scope they're asking us to look at is developers, residential developers want to understand your process and all the fees involved up front. So this point is asking, is there room for streamlining?
You need a minute?
If somebody wants to read this one, that'd be fine.
Streamlining and shortening the permitting process and timelines, including through the one-stop and parallel process for 15 days or this, permit applications may be submitted in person or electronic permit, insurance for the issuance for the complete building permit application currently meets or exceeds the statutory minimum proceeding of time by 5 business days or less.
Yeah, essentially some communities, when you turn in a building permit or apply for an application, suddenly, oh, well, you need this outside review and you need this outside review. And, you know, our department only does this. There's some disconnect between departments and the turnaround time on reviews. Luckily, Jamestown is consolidated enough. We just give each other a call. Hey, Josh, are we good to go for streets, utilities? Yes. Lori, we good here? Okay, boom, that permit's issued. So that's not really a problem for us. And as far as the, you know, streamlining the process, folks can apply. They can email me their permit applications directly. They can drop them off at the town hall, and Lori or Pam will scan them in and email them to me. So we're distributing those.
And they can upload them themselves as well.
Yes, they can into the iWork system now too. So, which is, I love that system, by the way. So we've widened that opportunity for submittal. You don't have to show up in person and do all that, and we can get that information out a lot faster. And as we mentioned, we're getting those permits turned around within 5 business days or less. Usually it's just a couple days, I think, Lori, if
everything's turned.
it's a complete application. You're exactly right. If we have everything we need, we can get it done right away. The next point is, does the town allow using property tax abatements to enable higher density and mixed income communities? That's going to be a town council thing, not really an ordinance thing. I'm not sure of what the town council's position is on granting tax abatements to high density housing, but I'm sure it would be something that would be discussed if the opportunity arose. And I think that's what we should say in the report.
Okay.
And then lastly, does the town allow donating vacant land for affordable housing development? I don't know how much vacant land the town owns. It would be available, but if they did, if the opportunity arose, I think the town council would consider it. So this is just a discussion kind of working session this evening. When I do the full report that hits each of these 9, that expands on it a lot more, we'll need to hold a public hearing with public input on those points, and then that gets submitted to the state. I'm not sure what they're going to do with it because everybody's got apples and oranges and we're comparing different things. But I think the point is to get our communities to start thinking about what barriers do we have in place to getting our housing stock increased. I will say, do what?
How many months do we take to do this?
Oh, well, I'll have a report done by the September hearing.
September.
Yeah, I could, or we could wait till another meeting, but
How unique of a situation are we in where we're located as a town? Being this on the border of Montgomery, on the border of Hendricks, I mean, realistically, we don't have so many places that we can go to grow unless we cross county lines, which ain't gonna happen.
Right.
I mean,
Technically, we are.
Yeah.
Hendricks County, we are in Hendricks County.
that's what I said, we're in Hendricks and Montgomery.
No.
No, not Montgomery.
The town itself is in Boone and Hendricks.
Well, we're bordered up to. Okay, but Hendricks County, with the way that they're coming this way, they're not allow us, I mean, nobody's gonna. Realistically, we're not gonna be able to, and there's only so far we can annex, correct? I mean.
We could annex all the way to Liston if we.
Really?
Yeah.
you don't have to stop at county lines.
We
The only thing
If we just have contiguous land.
So it's still Hendricks County, even if we go into.
But our parks in Hendricks County, which is annexed, those houses along Bowery Street on the south side is all Hendricks County that are annexed. So that's not an issue. The issue is meeting the requirements of annexation as far as
Contiguity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if say, in order to go any farther, you have to have, I can't remember the guy's name, but Schweitzer is the guy that's right there before the bridge. You would have to have them to say, okay, we want to annex.
Okay.
You cannot leapfrog anymore around anybody. You can't just annex a strip of road. You have to actually
Be attached.
be attached by, there's a footage amount that would have to be, I think it's 300 feet.
Oh, at least 20% or
So
16%.
ultimately, my thought of, it's not impossible, but super hard to go outside of county lines is, we could do it as a process.
Yes.
We just have to play by the other county's rules that we go into, to some degree.
And your utilities.
You know,
Just-
okay.
Just, yeah, the biggest thing is, we cannot take. So, but going in another county is not an issue. You're allowed to annex anything we want. It's just the recording of it is in Hendricks County versus Boone County. The other thing is like the electric, we cannot take anybody's electric territory away. So instead of being our electric, it would be Hendricks REMC or, you know,
Whatever it is.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
And the other side of that is whenever you annex somebody in, is it 3 years you have to get utilities to them?
Yeah, I think so.
So our out's always, somewhere in there, but our out's always been is there was a verbiage in there and I don't know if it's still there. It was you have to offer the same services to anybody that's annexed that you already do. Well, we have a house that is not hooked to our sewer that has been annexed since the 70s. So that's always been our out for sewer,
Good.
but not water. So, because technically we offer a service, but they're not on our sewer, they're not on our sewer, they're only paying.
Okay.
So, it's always been our out, but I don't know if that verbiage is still there. The annexation laws have changed.
It makes a little more sense.
And I just want to also let you guys know that this all has to go into a report and then it has to be submitted
Correct.
to the Indiana Housing Development.
IHCBA,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there's really nothing we're gonna do with this.
We're just talking about it, so when I get the formal report, you kind of know where we're coming from. Now, with regard to the housing demand, I will say that with all the communities I work with surrounding Indy and a little outside of there, I'm not getting the phone call inquiries about, I want to put apartment complexes in your community. I want to put duplexes. I want to put accessory dwellings. So even though they're trying to create opportunity, it doesn't mean there's a demand everywhere or that the demand is the same everywhere. So there's still a market function in there. So I'm just letting you know, I've never told anybody, no, you can't put a duplex in town. Because I've never gotten a call.
What would you say the phone calls are asking?
They're just wanting to remodel, put in fences and all that. Yeah.
No, I mean, as far as like development. A lot of.
Single family, Arlington Villas, you know. I haven't experienced multifamily developers in communities of this size.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. Only ones I know of here in recent years was an accessory structure for like the Megan sports type of thing. That's about the only thing I've heard of.
Right, and then when they realized that they had to hook up to the sewer, they said they would stop. Because they were gonna put in a sewer. Same,
Yeah.
stop.
So that is the house I was talking about.
But I think that, you know, I don't know if they did stop.
They did. There's no way to admit that. But that was the house where they do not have a sewer. But the agreement was if they ever had to expand or their septic system went bad, they had
When
to.
there's septic system.
So adding another structure and tying it in by county standards on septic fields, that one took them over the limit and they would add hook in.
Yeah.
So,
And I'll say even when I was acting planning director at Boone County, when we would get a call about multifamily development, the county's ordinance says it has to be on the public utility. So they're gonna call Lebanon and Lebanon would take it from there, so. And I think we only got a couple calls. We got more calls about campgrounds And how can we accommodate all these meta workers that are coming to town and give them places to live? So,
Actually, we kind of issue.
yeah. Okay, so that is that. I also wanted to give a rundown on some of the other regulations that will, just to make you aware of, that came out of that bill that we will have to update our ordinance for a little bit. First of all, we need to update some development standards. Retail sporting goods stores need to be, and shooting ranges need to be permitted by right in all commercial districts, not the mixed use districts, but just our commercial districts. Established shooting ranges, which I don't think we have any in town. But if we did have an established shooting range, we need to consider it a legally existing use. We can't treat it as a non-conforming use and make them jump through a bunch of hoops if they want to expand or something. So it doesn't affect us, but we may as well just add the language just in case. And then lastly, there was language that said you can't have any language in your ordinance that permits somebody from using their home as a rental. And I think maybe in our accessory dwelling unit standards, we require the property owner to live in either the main home or the accessory dwelling. So we'll need to lift that language. Somebody chooses to live elsewhere and rent out their accessory dwelling and their main home, they would be allowed to do that. So, again, that's something from the state, not here.
Are they grandfathered in? Would they be so?
If they made a voluntary commitment to do it
I
that,
mean, they were already committed. That's gone now.
yeah,
Okay.
unless the BZA said you could have that accessory dwelling and they're like, we'll voluntarily put a commitment in place to promise you we're gonna live on site. That's different. That's outside of the ordinance purview. It's a promise they made going forward. We have a handful of definitions to update. Accessory dwelling is one of them. The state put kind of a cap on how big those can be. It's 75% of the living area. I think ours is 75% of the footprint of the home. So that may affect some things. Also, an accessory dwelling unit cannot be a manufacturer. So we will add that language in. It wants us to clarify who an applicant is on our, which we kind of already do, but it wants a definition for it so that you understand who's making application for things. Wants us to use the state definition, class 1 and class 2 structures for commercial and industrial. That's no big deal. We need a definition for a homeowners association.
They suck.
Need a definition for an indoor shooting range. Manufactured home and mobile home, they want those to be interchangeable terms again, so.
Did we already make one interchangeable?
In some cases, but we need to make sure our definitions reference each other as well.
Okay.
We need to define what a permitted use is, which means something that does not need to go to the BZA or Plan Commission for approval. That's no big deal. Definition for retail sporting goods stores. Basically need to allow them to sell firearms and ammunition. Definition for short-term rental basically defaults to what the state has. And then we can define a will serve letter, which is basically permission or to connect to the utility. Yes, we have capacity, you may connect. So I've never heard it called a will serve letter. I've just had a connection agreement or permission to connect. We'll also at the end of the year have to prepare an annual housing progress report for the town. Luckily, CDA, I just spoke with them earlier this week. They're going to have an online form that you just fill in the blank, and they will hopefully give you sources for where you get that data going forward. So they're going to ask for construction costs for new housing, or new housing meaning single family, multifamily. They also want to know what your median income level is for the community. They'll have you break that median income level into 3 different groups, and then they want to see where that housing cost is hitting each of those groups. Are we way high, way low?
It's possible construction.
Well, that's a good point.
Obviously, the state.
The applicant comes in and on their application, what's your construction cost? And they give us a figure. We're not calculating that and there's.
That's, you know, that's where I'm at on it because Joe Blow, who is a general contractor, can build his house cheaper than somebody going to a housing commission and paying for it.
Yep,
So that's where, you know, but they could be the exact same house.
could be. I'm guessing when I know IFCDA is gonna be pushing to have this language tightened up, and I'm sure something will come into play with assessed value into that. But basically, they want to start looking at where's our new housing prices coming in at compared to our community income, and where are we missing that mark? And luckily, by having that online form, they'll be able to compare apples and oranges from community to community and get a better idea. Whereas when the language was originally written, I think I emailed you the legislation summary, and I had a giant spreadsheet because I went line by line as to what they were asking for. And every time I'm adding another line, I'm like, this could be different no matter where you go to. It's you can't compare the communities. So.
All right.
And then lastly, there wasn't any mandate for us to do anything, but it's recommended that we look at our planning fees and permit fees. They have said though that fees can only be increased once every 5 years going forward, which makes it kind of a budgeting nightmare. Because right now, if you haven't already done the budget, you're in the process of it. And if you were counting on certain income based on fee increases or gradual fee increases, it gets to be problematic. Also, the permit and planning fees are to be put into a non-reverted fund and not pulled into the general fund. And the State Board of Accounts should give us some guidance on what you can and use those fees for and how that's going to be administered. This language kind of came from the Builders Association that for some reason thinks communities are making billions of dollars off of their permit fees. And I think we're going to find there's a lot of fee supplementing going on.
With the general fund, and I think I feel that's not correct.
Because
That's
you're
not-
using other taxpayers' money to benefit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, I know where you're going with that.
That's why we tried to change.
Well, the application fees up front is
Exactly.
Huge.
wonderful.
Huge.
Yeah, I'm trying to get other communities to do that, but then they're like, how are we gonna do that? And I was like, but no, I get that. I think we should maybe do that with the Plan Commission and BZA applications as well and have that upfront fee before we get into it. So yes, that is the,
Okay, so they turn in their paperwork, right, as it stands now, they turn in their paperwork and then they pay. And then you start reviewing it, stuff, right?
for Plan Commission and BZA
Yes.
things. I have them submitted up front and then I let them know, hey, it's deficient this way, this way, this way. I can't proceed with a review. Have I spent maybe an hour of time looking at it? Yes, front. But I would assume if they've gone to the trouble of putting together an application, they're kind of vested to start moving forward.
Yes.
Although we got the one guy right now, but yeah, so you could have an initial application fee to cover that first hour or 2 hours of review going forward, so.
I would say I don't have an issue with looking into doing something like that because we did that with our building permits
Yes,
for the same reason.
It at least gives people a time.
Especially if you can't raise anything for 5 years. And we already know that we have instances where she's looking at something, well, we're paying her.
well, that starts from January 1st. If you changed your fees in January, you have until 5 years after that to increase them again.
Right.
So if you're contemplating an increase, think it through and try to be as
Right.
comprehensive as
But we
possible.
because we didn't raise that until, we raised that last year. We have
Yeah.
not done that this year.
Right,
So we.
There's a whole process too for raising your fees.
Correct.
yeah, but you have to justify why you're charging the fee.
Having, they're the same process with adding up to something like we were talking
A
about.
new line item to a fee?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a good point, because that's something we planners have been discussing behind the scenes. You had to, like, I had one community reach out to me and said, hey, we're gonna start paying our plan commission and BZA members starting next year. How do we incorporate that in without this fee increase cap? And I was like, just put it under administrative and do it now. And then you're collecting a little more the rest of 26, but maybe make it go into effect 2027 when you start paying this first. So I think you're exactly on point about kind of getting creative by how can you still capture the fees that you need to capture to cover your costs.
Cool beans.
So you're saying we could just add an administrative
I mean, Ticketmaster does it.
kind of for your review, a review
Right.
without going through that whole process?
Well, you have to outline it, but you still have to do a fee increase. But I'm just saying
Oh,
if you say that administrative fee covers the planner reviewing things up front, it covers Pam and Lori's time to file it away, it covers, you know, these 10 things, just call it one thing and say it covers these. Don't have them individual, so then you have some
yeah.
way lower.
And it really looked like that's all.
Now, I keep a spreadsheet for if a community says, how much should we be charging for fees? I'll say, take this into consideration, you know, these 15 things into consideration. There's a value for each one. But after we determine what that fee is, then we can kind of lump it a little more
So,
together.
let me ask you this then. If our fee, we determine that our fee, current fee actually covers your total time involved, can we just say we need 30% of that up front to cover your hour or something?
Absolutely.
That, okay. So there's an out right there.
You could ride that out.
Or if you just say, you know, give me 2 hours of hourly time to make the phone calls, make the emails, do the reviews, and that's the fee you charge up front. You know, I think, for example, for a variance right now, it's $800, which includes my time. Maybe you say, hey, the first 200 is when you make application, the remaining is when you finish that application and you're ready to go forward.
Right.
So if somebody bails after step 1, you've recouped your
You
expense.
could at least broke even by paying your bills and the time spent.
And
And of
then
course-
then we're not raising rates, so then therefore we can put that in place a lot quicker.
And of course, it's a function of outsourcing that work. If I was a full-time employee like Pam, Lori and them, that fee would be different. So,
No, she said we still had to go through the same.
No. If we do not increase our rate and we just
I
divide,
divide it up, yes, you don't have to do any.
just like we did on our building permit fee. They pay so much up front, but that is part of the total fee that they're paying.
Right.
It's like
So that's what you're gonna, that's
No,
what
they're
you're
paying the whole thing.
But there's an application fee up front before you send it on to me and Lowell to review for a new home, right?
That's the way it's set up.
It's the, they pay the
The whole
whole thing.
thing up front. Okay.
Ours been paying it all up front, but I don't think our
No, we're making
structure.
everybody pay that up front.
Okay, I didn't think that's how we structured it.
Yeah, I
but
thought it was just a portion of it up front and the remainder when it's done.
No. If they wanna go through with it, they're paying the whole thing. We got the, you know, the fees, but
But
It does.
for the plan commission and BCA petitions, I
Yeah,
can just
that's
change
what
the
I'm-
form that says, you know, pay $200.
Oh, you're talking about just those. You're making them pay it all up front before you even. 125. Even, get anywhere. No, you confused me because she said planning and BZA, you said yes, so I'm confused. Are you talking building permits or the BZA and planning commission?
we're making everybody pay everything up front.
Okay.
But I didn't know that there was a review and stuff before we received.
I'm not.
You just said that you could have it was eating that up.
Plan commission and BCA petitions, I'm reviewing before I send them to pay their fees to you. That one I'm saying, let's split that up and have them pay up front before I'll even start looking at any of it.
Right.
The building permits, I don't touch them until Pam says they've paid, you're good to go, start reviewing debt.
Right.
Yes.
So, but on, what I was getting at is if we say that our $800 fee covers everything for her, but
we know that she's spending an hour or two in the beginning of it before they pay anything, then we can say, we want 50% of that up front. So it's $400 net and $400 after.
Yes. And that does not, that's not a fee increase,
It's just splitting it up.
timing as to when you collect. And that we could,
You see what I'm saying on that one, Lori?
You need to have them pay the money before they get their variance, or otherwise I can come in here and give you $400 and you approve my variance and you kiss my ass.
No. Before you can actually have to, you have to pay. Her review on the first part of it, because if they decide after she tells them that, oh, hey, you're missing this, this, and this, and they decide, oh, it's not worth my time to worry about it, we've already paid her for 2 hours.
Most of the time, by the time that happens, we've already paid her for 6 hours.
So
That's why we are trying, Pam and I try to make sure that all those documents are there.
Cut
They
that
may not be
time.
correct, but,
with your building permits.
and the planning commission stuff.
They're emailing me then.
Okay.
So I'm just saying is if we can do something with that part of it where we're collecting some of that fee up front versus, because by the time it is going to be approved so that we can have the meeting, they need to have it paid at that point, is what I'm saying,
Absolutely.
total,
They,
which is how it is now, right? If they're saying, if you say they've got all their documents, you're saying, okay, now we need your $800 before we can move forward.
Yes,
So I'm saying is we could do something where we say they gotta pay $400 up front before she even looks at it. And then to get the meeting scheduled, they gotta pay the other one. Not necessarily that amount, but you know what I mean.
the difference is I'm doing upfront work that they can bail on, just like the building permits used to be.
I'm just trying to cover our own ass.
Yeah.
also before they even send you any documents.
Yeah. Or I can say, hey, I received an initial application, they need to pay before I open it up.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
That sounds like a plan.
And that's just changing the front page of the application packet.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
Because what kind of happens, well, what does happen in the process is the property owner will call me and say, I want to do this. And then, oh, well, you need a setback variance. Well, what does that entail? So then I have to look at their lot and explain to them, well, you've got an easement here, or you didn't have a survey of your property, so we're speculating everything. And which is a service I feel the town has to provide to answer those questions. But
Right.
there's been time invested in doing that.
Okay, I thought that we took you off the application at one point. So the people called here and asked us those questions. And then if we needed clarification, we would ask.
Well, it also says the problem if you took something in and I'm like, no, that's not what I need. Now we're backtracking and, but what I have done for all of my communities is there's like a pre-app is the first deadline. Get a draft of your stuff to me. I'll let you know what needs to be changed. And then we have the cutoff, get it all to me by this date, and that's when they're paying their fees. That has been working very well because it gives about a week time buffer for them to get things in order. So we're not taking our first week of review, trying to collect the info we should have.
But Lori, so what you're telling me is you and Pam are doing administrative stuff and aren't getting paid for it.
It's a better thing that's not paid out. We're still getting paid for our time.
I understand, but that's my point of, that's the point of the fees and stuff. So if we change how we are collecting the fee, then we're already collecting the money in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it seems like more work to me though.
More work for you.
I could have them write the check to me personally and we'll talk about it. Just-
I'm saying more work for us, you know, oh, these people still owe $400 or we, you know.
Now, by that time, it's on her.
How's it on her?
Because she's the one that says, before I look any farther, you need to pay. So if they're not paying, then they're not getting a meeting scheduled.
Right.
Honestly, if she just says, look, I received this package, they need to pay this money and I'll start looking at it, that's the easiest way to solve
Yep, that's what we could do and then spell that out in the application.
it. Yeah.
My whole point of it is if we keep growing, there's going to come a time that you and Pam will not be able to carry on. So by the way these new laws are going in, we have to plan for the future. So regardless if we raise the rate or if we change how we are taking the money in, we still end up having to hire somebody in-house at some point in the next 5 years. And that's very possible because we've seen communities launch like that. We have to think like that. So if it is just, we're collecting enough that covers everything, then we may need to start collecting upfront before anybody even looks at it. Just for that simple purpose of if we have somebody working in town, we hire a person that's all they do. We have to figure out how to pay them, and that's the way to make sure that their hours are covered in the beginning. That's all I'm getting at.
We'll just get I work modules for.
You could do that. Yep.
What was that you said, Laura?
I work modules for planning and zoning.
Is that
I think it's made our building permit process way, way, way better.
I think it's super easy for like in Arbor Homes. I think the individual property owner who only does this maybe once or twice their whole life, it's not really, they're not seeing a benefit.
Right, but if we're starting to grow like Josh is saying, then that would benefit it.
Yes, correct.
It does save a lot of phone calls.
Right. I'm just saying is, one housing addition is a stepping stone. We've all grown up around here. We've all seen how the other communities started off. It was one housing addition. And the next thing you know is it just kept building.
Yeah.
Well, we're good, I mean.
Texas Roadhouse is on their way here right as we speak.
Well, they're getting close to the Brownsburg.
Boo, Texas.
I will say for like it, I got a call today from iWorks trying to set up a system for Fairland. And I was like, oh, we're doing 5 permits a year. We don't need a system for that yet, but you will be the first ones I call when we do get to that. So.
I thought, yeah, look, are we done? Or are we good?
Yeah, I mean, I'm waiting you guys to say we're done discussing this stuff and we can adjourn this meeting.
Okay.
I have a comment. Have a comment.
Yes.
Because I know that you guys have this work out. And then I will be back at your next scheduled public hearing. On your square footage.
Lot square footage or home square footage?
Home square footage.
Okay.
I listened to Stormbound go through this, 2 or 3 months ago. They were talking about minimum square footage of a home. I just want you to know that the home that Fran and I bought at 25 Oak Street, when we purchased that home, was 800 square feet.
Correct.
And that was a whole
And-
house, okay?
It doesn't matter what other communities are doing, but our home wouldn't be able to be allowed to be in the majority of the communities today. I also want you to realize that the 400 square foot apartment Deb referenced is the exact same size as Robert's house on High Street with the bugs.
Right.
That's a 400 square foot home.
Yeah.
I think, I just want you to be aware of what younger people today are wanting. They don't want the
2,700 square foot,
Right.
they don't want the big ranch home. They don't want the Western Acres lots. They don't. They want to go to school or work, and they want to come home, and they don't even want to mow the yard. Please keep that in mind as you guys look through this. Impact fees is very. I wrote that as a positive. I also asterisked permit streamlining. Permit streamlining is extremely important. It's very, very important. If you could hear the frustration that comes from the other side of my dining room office, Yeah, you
I
would,
do too.
you would understand as well. And then also, please look into your density versus your square footage. I mean, in my opinion, and it's only of my opinion, the density and the square footage both, moving forward don't match. I mean, the redevelopment commission, I don't want to speak for the redevelopment commission. I just share with you that we do discuss high density housing, apartment complex or triceps, quads, different things like that. We would be open to entertaining something like that.
Didn't come here to have to.
If the developer is interested. Yeah, so there's a lot of good points, but just as you focus on your things that you guys have to change, please keep those in mind of really what the future is looking like and what the future wants. But we're getting a vision of what the future wants because we really don't know what the future wants because it's not here. But we can look at other communities and we can tell that, this is what people are wanting because they're building them and freaking everywhere.
And again, we don't have to make any changes from these 9 points. I'm just saying in order to, well, in order to, if the things that they're giving us to think about, hey, can we remove some of these barriers and make things even easier to build in town? So I was just pointing that out. But we're not going through an amendment process for that unless you choose to. So.
I just want to throw this out there too. I'm ready to get out here myself. The land by Farrell Pond, John Levish's property. Their thoughts on that are possibly retail. And I believe, and I don't care what any developer tells me, I believe that you can put a retail shop that is like in Brownsburg, where you have the restaurants on the bottom and those apartments on top, facing that pond. I think it would work.
I
So-
agree.
Because you still have kind of a rule setting. But think about the future development, what we have, what people's intentions are with their property, and try to make it align. And if it doesn't, we can always change it because it's a living document.
Exactly.
Okay, so I do got one more question, Deb. So is the legislature, they want this report so that they can look at it and they can say, this is what most communities look like or the rules are. This is what we wanted. They have their standards. This is what we'd like to see. So we're gonna enforce, maybe they'll meet in the middle or something.
If they do anything, maybe they're gonna take it under advisement for a year and review all the data. And say, hey, in Indiana, across the board, our minimum lot size on sewer and water is way too big. So we're gonna change the law and say it can't be bigger than this or something.
But we want to draw people, so, housing, development, whatever, development. So we should consider changing it.
Exactly. So like, think about Darlington Villas and the variances that they requested along the way to make their project work. If we maybe just update the ordinance and allow that to happen by right, and how much time would that have saved them? From the
Exactly.
point they came to town first to the point they pulled their first permit. That's what this process is asking us.
Yes.
So in that case, you're looking at a minimum of 5,500 square feet lots. Just so everybody's aware of that. Because that's what we approved out there.
5 foot setbacks.
So. Correct. 5 foot for
But again, that's actually better than most housing conditions that are going up now. Believe it or not.
But then, in my head, thinking even farther, you get families coming in, they want fences because they got a dog and kids that are playing that. But half their backyard is an easement because now we have tinier lots and we don't want fences in our easements and that. So,
Right?
Which I've been thinking about that since that's been.
Yeah. and that's fine up for discussion. But I'm just saying, those are things to think about when you do allow that density and smallness. Now we have individual property owners wanting to do things, and I need a shed because I have a yard to mow, and I need a mower to put in there.
So before we adjourn, we can kind of make a decision on which direction we want to go. Do we just want to make the report up and have it ready by next meeting?
Very session was going.
Well, since we've had this discussion,
If we want to
do we want to change stuff before she gets this report done?
Well, I would still do the report anyway.
Yeah, so it's more.
If we want to look at amendments that we've discussed, let's do that separately and we can start talking about that at any time.
Okay. Because if we're going to do discussion, I almost said wait for October's meeting because I will not be here.
Well, and I don't, that's
So-
a short amount of time for me to, and I think maybe we should have a steering committee or something to start.
I
mean,
mean, so, all right, in that case, she's going to work on getting that report ready. I will not be here in September.
Well, you'll get a copy at a time still.
And I will not be able to be online.
Oh,
It's hard to get internet out in the middle of the other.
I heard your vacation got declined.
Yeah, no. It's different on that one. All right, Cookie,
I move during the meeting.
Erica, all in favor? Here we go, our turn.
thank you.
What?